Chelsea have just beaten Premier League champions Liverpool by 2-1, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at how they did it. We're going to be breaking down the tactics involved that Enzo Maresca used to not only try to stop Liverpool but also help Chelsea go forwards without their main man Cole Palmer and ultimately get that win. Chelsea's team selection raised an initial question mark, and that was the inclusion of Malo Gusto into midfield. I think a lot of people would have expected Reece James to be in this position, but it was the other way around. And actually, the way it worked was really interesting because there was a really interesting dynamic between Gusto and James, and oftentimes they would switch roles and switch positions with each other, and it allowed a better balance for Chelsea going forwards down that right-hand side, but it maintained a good defensive security. As well as that, you had Chelsea going forwards with those two attacking midfielders in Enzo and Gusto, Caicedo dropping back and being that main six, that holding pivot, but it was down the wide areas that Chelsea found themselves to be really dangerous. Garnacho and Neto really pushing onto Bradley and Kirkesh, taking that space in beyond them, making sure that when Bradley and Kirkesh left their position to try and help Liverpool go forwards, it was about isolating that space and then trying to get those crosses into the box. Isolating Joao Pedro against one of the Liverpool centre-backs meant that Chelsea needed to get the ball into the box as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and from that point it was about the utilisation of both Enzo Fernandez and Malo Gusto to try and help that happen, not only with 1-2 interplays but also with getting themselves into the box as well. So for example, if the ball was out on that left hand side and getting crossed in towards that left hand side, Malo Gusto getting into the box, Neto getting into the box, making sure you're flooding that penalty area to give those Liverpool defenders as much difficulty as possible. It was a game plan that for a lot of the time really worked and caused quite a few problems for this Liverpool defence. It was actually pretty impressive from this Chelsea attacking side. But it was the way that Chelsea managed to break through that Liverpool 4-2-4 defensive formation that really got them going. It was so impressive from them from the get-go. Initially, you had Alejandro Garnacho and Pedro Neto playing really high and really wide. This spread that Liverpool backline and in fact spread the entire Liverpool team to a certain extent, opening up certain channels and certain pockets of space. But it was the utilisation of Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez and Malo Gusto onto that Liverpool midfield too that was so very interesting. Instead of Szoboszlai dropping off and finding Moises Caicedo, he pushed on to try and pressurise that Chelsea back line. It was a move that would see Moises Caicedo in a lot of space and being that spare man, creating the overload that Enzo Maresca always wants. He wants that numerical advantage in midfield to be able to have that extra man, and that's exactly what Chelsea had, especially in that first half. From that point, the moment you start to break that Liverpool press and you break the ability for Gravenberch and McAllister to jump onto the Chelsea midfielders, you have the ability to push forwards into that attacking space. Joao Pedro pushing that defensive line back just a little bit to allow for Moises Caicedo to go forwards, and from that point it's about how good Moises Caicedo is on the ball, and I think we have a pretty good idea. And this is exactly how the Chelsea goal comes about. You've got this Liverpool 4-2-4 defensive formation. You've got Enzo Fernandez dropping just a touch, and you've also got Malo Gusto doing the same. This brings along those Liverpool markers. You've got Ryan Gravenberch pushing onto Enzo Fernandez. You've got McAllister pushing onto Gusto. But in the middle of this space is Moises Caicedo, who is completely free. And this is because of the role of Dominik Szoboszlai, who's pressurising the player who's on the ball. But if he's able to find a pass into that midfield, you have an overload. You have a numerical advantage, a 3v2. And it's from that point that Malo Gusto gets the ball from Badiashile, and then Chelsea are away. McAllister has a big question to answer. What does he do? Does he drop off? Does he pressurise Gusto, or does he try to go for Moises Caicedo? He tries to go for the latter, and in this case he has to win the ball. The moment he doesn't win the ball, and he doesn't win the ball because of Moises Caicedo's fantastic skill, the moment he doesn't win the ball, Liverpool are exposed. That back line is exposed. You've got Joao Pedro pushing that line backwards. This forces a retreating Liverpool back line, but at the same time you've also got Moises Caicedo driving into that space just ahead of him. Really good, really impressive. And at that point it's him taking one extra touch to settle himself, get himself ready and fire it onto goal. It is a wonder hit. It is a fantastic hit, but it is created due to that numerical advantage that Chelsea created within the centre of the park. Don't take anything away from Moises Caicedo though, because it was a wonder strike. What a goal, and Chelsea go 1-0 up. What really impressed me from Chelsea initially though, and especially in that first half, was the way that Chelsea were able to deal with Liverpool from a defensive point of view. The defensive protocols that they utilised were really good and hampered the way that Liverpool wanted to progress the ball. What they did was operate a man marking system, pushing every single Chelsea player onto a specific Liverpool player, understanding their roles, understanding where they needed to be, and making sure that a lot of Liverpool's progression, especially through the centre of the field, that you can see here highlighted yellow, is really crucial, and it prevented Liverpool from playing through that midfield three that we know they really like. This forced them to utilise the wide areas a little bit more, but with that man marking system, especially in that first half, what happened is that there wasn't a lot of space, there wasn't a lot of time, and it meant that Chelsea were able to recover the ball a little bit easier. A change needed to be made, and something needed to be altered, and something needed to be really looked at, because it wasn't really working, especially with Isak trying to drop into midfield. Acheampong ended up following him, and there really wasn't a way through until those changes happened. The problem with the man marking system is the moment you switch off, you're leaving an opponent and you're giving them extra space. And that's exactly what happened for the goal that Liverpool scored against Chelsea in that second half. Of course, the substitutions made a difference. Of course, Arne Slot's tactical changes made a difference. But Chelsea switching off at the wrong time really did contribute to this goal happening. It happens down this Liverpool right-hand side, the Chelsea left. And as you can see, Alejandro Garnacho is not following his man as closely as he probably should be, and that man is Dominic Szoboszlai. In this particular example, it's almost as if Cucurella has a 2v1 against him. It gets played over towards Szoboszlai, and it means that Cucurella needs to make up the ground to try and block the cross. He's unable to do so. The moment that he's unable to do so, it's then about this area right here. What happens between Isak and the central defenders? Now, something needs to be mentioned, and that's the fact that Badiashile went off injured. This meant that Reece James needed to drop back into a centre-back position, and this might have contributed to the way that Chelsea dealt with this cross aerially. There is a deflection on the cross, so that needs to be taken into consideration as well, but generally the ball gets taken down far too easily by Alexander Isak. It doesn't get cleared well enough, but it's a really good touch from him and a really good knock-on shot from Cody Gakpo, but I feel like initially it could have been dealt with a little bit better by this Chelsea defence. Not taking anything away from Liverpool though, because it was a really well-worked goal. 1-1 late in the game, you've had to substitute your two starting centre-backs and you need a goal. So what do? Because of Chelsea's fantastic strength in depth, they managed to substitute both wingers. Gittins and Estevao come on for Pedro Neto and Alejandro Garnacho, and it brings a whole new energy to the way this Chelsea side go forwards, but in particular, the way they operate down those wide areas. We mentioned how crucial they were earlier on, and they were just as important, if not more so, going into the latter stages of this game. Gittins and Estevao did a fantastic job of isolating the space behind Dominic Szoboszlai, who was playing at right back at the time, and Andy Robertson. It was through this they were able to propel themselves forwards, but it was also isolating that left-hand side for Chelsea, but also the right-hand side for Liverpool. Endo, Gravenberch and Szoboszlai was a triangle that I think could have really been exploited, and I think Enzo Maresca saw exactly the same thing. Overlapping and encouraged runs from Marco Correa to overload that space really did cause Liverpool quite a few problems. It was through this that they were able to create a lot of dynamic interplay, but also find a crucial key part of space behind Ryan Gravenberch and Dominic Szoboszlai. It was in this particular and key area that Chelsea looked to get crosses into. They did the same on the opposite side as well, Estevao and Gusto working well together, but it was in particular on that Liverpool right-hand side that looked particularly vulnerable. The moment they get into that space, it's about making sure you get crosses in, making sure you get dynamic runs in, Lavia getting in, Estevao getting in, Duke going in. Really, really important to get players into the box to create as much danger as possible, and seeing what happens. And we know what happens, don't we? It's a goal. But how does it come about? So you've got Gittins out on his far left-hand side. You've got Marco Correa making that darting run to create that numerical advantage. You've got Enzo Fernandez in that central pocket, just looking to try and receive a pass. But it's this side for Liverpool, the side with Dominic Szoboszlai at right back. You've got Ryan Gravenberch at centre back and Endo just ahead of them as a centre defensive midfielder. I think this was the space that Enzo Maresca really wanted to isolate and really look to punish, and it was through Gittins in particular that really managed to do that. As they drove forwards, you've got the ball played into Enzo Fernandez. You've got Marco Correa making a great overlapping run for him in between those Liverpool players. It doesn't get seen initially because of the pressure that was given by Curtis Jones, but Enzo Fernandez manages to resume his play, regain his composure, and play it through into Cucurella for a second time. A great run, a great second run to stay onside as well. We can see another angle of it in just a second. It plays the pass across in fantastic fashion, and just look at this. Look at the moment here. He's made a fantastic run to isolate this space right here. Really, really good. Fantastic work. It's a great pass from Enzo as well. And it's all about whether Estevao is able to get himself into the box, whether he's able to make sure that he's able to get into that danger area, make sure he's able to get on the end of that cross. He absolutely can. It's in a fantastic fashion. It's a brilliant goal, and I think it was around about the 95th, 96th minute. What a sensational goal for Chelsea. What a huge goal for Chelsea, and what a huge goal for that man, Enzo Maresca. It was a fantastic win, and I bet they will have enjoyed that. But of course, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. What did you make of Liverpool? What did you make of Chelsea? And what did you make of the game? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you ever so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.